Well, hi, everybody. It's 6:02. We have everybody here that's going to attend. So thank you for all being here. At this time, I would ask for, well, let me say that the city council meeting of what is November the 1st, 2022. I call this city council meeting to order. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Larson. Here. Councilmember Hill. Councilmember Romillion.
Here.
Councilmember Grant.
Present.
Councilmember Borghese. Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Here.
Mayor Labby.
Here.
City Administrator Larry Simons.
Sure.
Thank you very much. At this time, we actually have scheduled on this agenda an executive session. We're going to try and make it brief, but we'll go through the same process where we go upstairs. And we'll get back down here as quickly as we possibly can.
I think we need a motion.
That's what I'm about to vocalize. Green moves to go into executive session under sections 24-6-402 4B of the Colorado Revised Statutes for legal advice on specific legal questions concerning matters related to the police department. I further move to reconvene the November 1st City Council meeting at the conclusion of the executive session in order to proceed with the remaining items on the agenda.
Luna Ladd seconds. Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Hill.
Yes.
Councilmember Romillion.
Yes.
Councilmember Grant.
Yes.
And Councilmember Borghese is not here. Mayor Pro Tem Green.
Yes.
Mayor Labby.
Yes. Okay. At this time, we'll move upstairs. Hannah, I know this is your first meeting. We'll go upstairs. You will turn on the recording. Then once we're in executive session and receiving legal advice, we'll turn the recording off. We'll turn it back on once we're done with that, before we come back downstairs. Then we turn it on. Sorry. Smaller triggers, even that, you move the dial. Hi, Chris.
I'm sorry, what? The only reason, and I'm not going upstairs because I'm not on the list to be in the executive session.
Chapin, do you know how to bring that?
Do I know how to?
Yeah.
Are you taking the computer
I
upstairs?
think I'm supposed to.
Yeah, because Christiana should be. Just press record before they start. Do you want to?
It's okay.
Yeah, I know.
Excuse me, Mayor Lobby, this is Alan Robinson. Are you hearing me? Mayor Lobby, do you hear me? This is Alan Robinson.
Alan Robinson.
Mayor Lobby, do you hear me? This is Alan. Hello, is that Reed? Yeah, I apologize, Reed. I'm connected to your meeting by mistake. I will leave your meeting. No, I'm supposed to be talking to the Leadville City Council. Okay. Oh, thank you very much. I'll try to just stay on it. Thank you.
Read, it's Alan. I'm still rather confused, but I am waiting for the Leadville City Council. Are you there, Reed? I'm not muted anymore, but I'm simply obviously.
Today I went to the post office to mail some Halloween packages to my daughter, my best friend's daughter, who's also a college freshman, and my niece. Also a college freshman. Her son is post office.
Oh, I don't have
These are the things to the grandkids.
Nice piece of tape.
When did she get out of the hospital?
Good.
That's funny. Okay, we are zoomed back up. Thank you very much. The time is now 6:52 PM and the executive session has concluded. The participants in the executive session were Mayor Greg Lobby, Councilmember Tracy Lewinson, Councilmember Tim Hill, Mayor Pro Tem Dana Green. Oh, this is still that old stuff. Councilmember Christian Monreal and Councilmember Shannon
Grant.
Grant.
It's okay.
And Council, we already said Kim Hill. Also, we had Deputy City Clerk Hannah Shear, City Administrator Lori Simonson, and City Attorney Christiana McCormick. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into executive session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I ask that you state your concerns for the record. Seeing none, we already have a motion to go to reconvene city council, and we have a second. I will take roll call, please.
Councilmember Whitson? Yes. Councilmember Hill?
Yes.
Councilmember Monreal?
Yes.
Councilmember Grant?
Yeah.
Councilmember Fitzgerald is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Yes.
Mayor Lobby?
Yes. Thank you. We are now back in regular session. At this time, we are pleased to have the oath of office for Officer Aaron Barnett. Officer Barnett, come up to the front here, please.
All right.
Get all set here.
All right.
Raise your right hand. Repeat after me, please. I, Aaron Barnett,
I, Aaron Barnett,
do solemnly swear.
do
solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and laws of
and laws of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Colorado,
the Constitution and the laws of the state of Colorado,
and the municipal laws and code of the city of Leadville.
and the municipal laws and codes of the city of Leadville.
I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law
I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law
without consideration to a person's race,
without consideration to a person's race,
color,
color,
sex,
sex,
religious creed,
religious creed,
sexual orientation,
sexual orientation,
age,
age,
national origin,
national origin,
ancestry,
ancestry,
handicap, or disability.
handicap, or disability.
I affirm that I will faithfully perform the duties of a Leadville Police Department officer
I affirm that I will faithfully perform the duties of a Leadville Police Department officer
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
I enter into this obligation freely without any reservations.
I enter into this obligation freely without any reservation.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You got it, yeah, we got two.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. So you'll sign both copies.
Sounds
Right
good.
here.
Too easy.
And I'll sign it to you.
All right.
Everybody sees that scribble, it's his signature.
Yep, sorry. It's not a good one.
Fine.
Cool. Thank
Get
you.
us into our records.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pass that down. Hannah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We put you at the, early at the agenda, so you didn't have to sit through all the other.
Yes.
Okay. Congratulations, thank you.
Okay, next up, we have approval of the agenda. Anything anybody would like to add? You can't subtract anything. It's already happened. Anything anybody would like to add or subtract from this agenda or any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
moves to approve the agenda. We'll start.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. All were in favor. At this time, housekeeping matters, anything anybody would like to talk about quickly before we get started? I have a couple of pumpkin patch. We had two things this week here, pumpkin patch and trick or treat street. Both were hugely successful. Pumpkin patch, big turnout. Get Outdoors, Leadville did it. A lot of other nonprofits are out there helping. Just family gatherings, games, costume contests, and then trick or treat street. I don't know if I've seen that many kids. I didn't know there were that many kids in Leadville. It was quite something and quite successful. So I'm very pleased with this community's effort this last weekend. Any other housekeeping? Yes, Tracy.
Where are we on our negotiations with High Country developers on phase 2 lots that he was hoping?
I don't know. Lori had taken the reins on that, and I haven't heard you more.
We had one meeting with John Lichtenegger and his team. Chafin and I we had a number of issues we were covering, and I would say if we want to talk about negotiations, we can do an executive session about where we are and what we're thinking. But we didn't get much of a bite from John about where we are. So we're working on it.
Probably fair to say that the priorities right now are addressing some of the other concerns that we had under the SIA PD.
Okay, any other housekeeping matters? Okay, at this time, public comments on items not on the agenda. There's nobody in chambers left, but if anybody on Zoom would like to speak to City Council on items not on the agenda, please unmute and speak to us. You'll have 3 minutes.
And just, so you know, Reed McCullough is here from the Chafee Housing Trust, and he would like to present in public comment. If you can unmute, Reed, there you go.
Great, Mayor, City Council, thank you very much for the opportunity to present this evening. I just wanted to catch you all up on the activities of the Chafee Housing Trust in Leadville and Lake County. Let me start with just sharing about the workshops that we've been doing this year. So we've been providing workshops, 2 different types of workshops. One is called Creating Spending Plan Your Way. It's household budgeting. And the second one is Preparing for Homeownership. And both of these workshops have been offered multiple times, both in person and online, by Claudia Paulskill, our homeownership program director, both in English and in Spanish separately. We had a total of 20 workshops, 84 signups, 52 attendees, 35 of whom were from Lake County. And this has been something that we've been building up over the last several years. So Claudia spends about 30% of her time working on this in specific to Lake County. On the homeownership program side, Claudia works with all of our clients, so including the folks that take the class, and anybody can take these classes, they're for free. But she works with our clients on repairing their credit history, reviewing and repairing it, developing household budget and action plan, and then going all the way through mortgage application and closing on a home. And we also provide post-purchase counseling to all of our clients and homeowners. So far, we've had about 28 inquiries from Lake County. We've had 6 households fully apply for the program, and we already have 1 on the waiting list. We've got 2 that are home buyer ready, but have stepped back from the program. And then we've got a couple other folks who are working on their credit. And so far, only 1 client is above the income limits. So give you a good sense of all the programming that we're trying to provide to Lake County to seed the garden, so to speak, so that when we have homes built, we're going to have ready home buyers. And history has taught us that we have to have, sometimes it takes several years for folks to get home buyer ready. So we really wanted to hit the ground running and start this program before we get into home construction. If anybody's interested, we've got 5 classes left this year. Just go to our website and you can see the listings of the classes there. It's chafeehousing.org. And you can also, there'll be 2 in-person sessions, one in Spanish and one in English. The Spanish one is on November 19th from 1 to 3 p.m. It's a Sunday, and the other one's on December 3rd from 1 to 3 p.m., both at the public library. Specifically, the reason I'm here tonight is to share with you that we are going to be building 12 condominium homes on the Laura parcel in the rail yard. Right now, we're in the design phase, architectural, engineering, etc. We've almost got finished plans. We're also working on financing for the project, and we just submitted a $600,000 grant to the Division of Housing to help support that project. Annually, we receive funds separate from projects from the Division of Housing to be a community housing development organization, or the CHODO. So we are a CHODO for Lake County, and this requires matching funds. So we've presented to Chaffee County Board of County Commissioners, and they've approved $20,000 in support. We will be applying to SLIDA and Buena Vista, requesting $10,000 from each in the coming months when their process takes place. We've also presented to the Lake County Board of Commissioners and put in a $20,000 request. And so respectfully, we would like to also put in a request to the city of Leadville for a $10,000 request for 2023. So I just wanted to get you up to speed, share with you what our needs are. I've submitted a formal letter to Lori, and would happy to answer any questions if there are any, or to participate in the budget process as you see fit. And with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Reed. I'm sure Lori will let you know when that will be on our budget agenda.
Yeah, I mean, I
Well,
guess
thank
the question is, do you want to consider it a request out of contingency for this year, or do you want me to put it in the budget for next year?
That's brilliant.
I mean, because we can do either. I was gonna give Councilmember Green a heads up that she needed to get her back of the napkin out, but I think the back of the
date.
it's, we can certainly put it as a budget request for next year. But I also think that we may have funds available for this year. It depends on the council's preference as to when they would like to commit the funds and out of which budget.
It could also come out of the housing and the accommodations, yes.
That's a possibility. Sure. I haven't seen our roll up yet of the total numbers for the third quarter, but they're strong, as you know. So that's not a bad idea as well. I like spending down the contingency budget, and I think that's really a pretty clever idea.
Well, that's generally where we put, and again, a good point from Councilmember Luertzen is that because it is housing related, we have those out in another pot of funds. My preference would be if at all, to put it in 2022, if there are funds available rather than 2023.
Okay.
Just because that makes it a little bit easier for our budgeting purposes for 2023.
We are having a budget session next Wednesday. And let's have that conversation as part of that budget session and make a decision if that's okay with them.
Okay.
Thank you, Reed.
Well, thank you. And I am absolutely flexible on however it best works for you.
Well, I don't know. I thought maybe you wouldn't want the money sooner rather than later. So that's just a thought.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody else on Zoom who would like to speak to City Council on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move on. Next up, the consent agenda. I've looked over these minutes. I don't see any issues. Anybody else?
I think I might have a correction.
Okay,
I wanna clarify
please.
it. So I believe if I'm recalling right, it was Councilmember Grant who suggested the moratorium on demolition? No? Was it Tracy? Sorry. It was somebody over in that direction. All right, thank you. Then I'm having no problems.
Right. Any other thoughts on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion, please.
We'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Seconds. Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. All were in favor. Next up, we have a presentation. This is from Alan Robinson with the Stage and Rail Trail. Alan, can you hear me okay? There you are.
Yes, are you able to hear me?
Yes,
Are you hearing me?
yes.
Thank you. I must admit that be having some internet connectivity problems and could possibly disappear from you, and I apologize in advance for that.
Alan, I have a suggestion.
I'm-
Close out your video. Usually that will help your internet connection. And it'll make us
I
feel a
will
lot
do
better
that,
too.
but okay. I will do that, but I suspect that will not allow me to share a screen where I had a map to show you. So can I ask you, Mayor, whether you actually did prepare a couple of those?
Everybody has your presentation in their packets and the maps.
He's gone.
Oh, geez. He's coming, now he's back.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's still trying to get on.
If I remember correctly, the concern with this was the signage specifically, right, when we reviewed it?
Yes, and that the logo said drive, I think. That was like that, some sort of a showstopper. Anyway, that was the concern. And the other part of it was, how do we share with the county? We do understand, most of the trail is not in the city limits. I will tell you why Alan's trying to get back on. Alan, are you on now? I'll share with you some things that I know. I've been on the Stage and Rail Trail Committee for quite some time. They haven't had a meeting in quite a while, but Alan's taken this back over as a labor of love. We had in the past, predating most of us, in the first couple of years, maybe 1 year, I was city council and 1 year mayor. But we had helped the Stage and Rail Trail with about a $1,500 donation for each of a couple of years. They haven't asked for anything in a long time. I mean, I know I'm biased about this because I think it's a great project. And I think this is a very modest ask. But that's the discussion. That's the conversation we're having tonight. On what, these things take forever to accomplish. We're seeing the Fremont Pass Trail has completed like the first 3 miles, and they have a long ways to go to complete what they want to accomplish. The Stage and Rail Trail, according to this, is about 80% in place. They have some private ownership issues past Granite. You can see the old Stagecoach Road all along there. It goes through some private property further down, and Alan has formed a pretty good relationship with that one property owner. The guy still hasn't relented on allowing the Stage and Rail Trail to go through there. That's the challenge right now. A lot of other things have really come to fruition over time.
Are you able to hear me now, Mayor Levin?
We can hear you now, Alan. Yes.
Yes, I apologize, and thanks very much for that brief summary. And I don't think I will be able to share a screen. I digress for a moment and say that I've come before this council on 3 or 4 occasions. In fact, Mayor Lobby has summarized the fact that you've been generous enough to help us out in the past. And I'm sorry that I'm not there in person to get a better sense of you folks on the council, but I am quite familiar with your meeting room and have been there on a number of occasions. So thank you for the opportunity for making a brief presentation. I appreciate that Mayor Labby included a rather extensive update of our progress on the Stage and Rail Trail in the agenda itself. So I hope that either before now or at a later time, you can review that because we have made substantial progress, as the mayor has summarized, and we're essentially entering a phase where we have completed virtually all of the easy tasks of actually designating the stage and rail historic route all the way some 72 miles from Salida to Leadville. It's not technically 72 miles because a number of those miles are out on the CDOT highways and we're not designating on them. But the real issue that I'm bringing before you this evening is that with the completion of a really intensive volunteer labor activity to get the Crossroads Trail underneath the highway bridge down there at the AHRA Hayden Reservoir, it's now possible to pursue formal designation of another 14 miles of the stage and rail historic route, all in Lake County. And for the most part on Lake County roads, additional miles on Forest Service and BLM, and short sections of it potentially along the Mineral Belt Trail within your town. So what I have presented in materials that I think are essentially before you, or I would have shared with you if I could, is a map of that proposed route, which basically goes under the Crossroads Trail, under the highway, and then moves up into the Lodgepole Flats area on BLM and Forest Service lands. Eventually chooses to go along the Pipeline Road and then to 11 and County Roads 11, 11A, etc. And essentially comes into the city of Leadville using County Road 5 by the golf course and County Road 4, which I'll digress to say Mayor Lobby has accompanied me twice at least on this section, and it's a very dramatic and interesting section. It's not single track at all. It's actually drivable for the most part. So with that in mind, it is basically the county's authority to designate those roads within the county as part of the stage and rail historic route. And I have already come before the Board of County Commissioners, and they're aware of this. They apparently are not going to be able to make a kind of final determination on our presentation until early next year. But I appreciate the fact that Mayor Lobby invited me to bring this to your attention even before the end of your year. And I really don't want to take more of your time, but in fact, the bottom line of what I am bringing before you is, in addition to the question of actually designating the trail along the mineral belt, the fact is that we do need something over $3,000 to put appropriate signage in on the 14-mile section that would be eventually designated. So not to bother you with the details here, but I think there has been some suggestion that the city of Leadville might wish to cooperate with the Board of County Commissioners in some way to consider sharing the expense of around $3,300 to allow us to go ahead and purchase signs. And probably at this stage, those signs would be put in the spring as soon as weather conditions permitted, and allow that 14 miles to be sort of formally opened. So I'd be happy to answer questions that a brief presentation like this. There was some difficulties in not being able to show you what I had in mind, but I'm certainly open to your questions.
Thank you, Alan. We do have your presentation in front of us. Just as, so I understand, are you asking that the city share this cost with the county? What you have in your presentation is $3,132. And are you suggesting that the city would pay half and the county would pay half? Is that what you're asking of us?
I don't think it's my role to ask how you would want to make that sharing, but the fact is, it would be I could make a case that it is in the interest of the city of Leadville to, to show that kind of support, to share it equally with Board of County Commissioners, but that's obviously your call.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to open it up to any questions from city council for Alan.
Alan, I think we had sorry, this is Councilmember Hill. And I know Councilmember Forgenzi had some concerns with the sign in an earlier meeting. He's not present tonight, so I'll take that role. It seems like the sign, at the bottom of the sign says hike, bike, and drive. And Councilmember Virginia and I actually have concern with this too. I have a concern with the drive part of that sign being posted on trails that you can't drive on. Is there any kind of options to that sign, or is that just the sign you use everywhere?
Well, you're correct in your last statement that it's a generic logo sign that covers the 72 miles, most of which is actually open for all varieties. But I'm sure that to respond to that concern, we could change that sign, and in those sections, which obviously include the Mineral Belt Trail, but there will be a few other sections eventually where driving is not permitted. That logo could certainly be altered and avoid that. I might just want to make a kind of a generic observation that the designation of the stage and rail historic route has no impact on the activities that are already permitted and allowed by the jurisdictions through which the trail runs. For example, on the Mineral Belt Trail, there is no intention nor certainly no proposal to make any kind of change to the permitted activities that are on the Mineral Belt Trail. Similarly, on any county road or any forest road, there is no intention to alter the way in which those roads are managed in terms of what's permitted on them. But I take your point, and we certainly could make sure that any logo sign, which I think is what you're referring to, was appropriately altered to make sure it didn't include an activity that was not actually allowed on that particular section. So I take your point, certainly.
Thank you, Alan. What do you think, Jim?
Yeah, I think the ability to change the time would be a good thing. Especially with the Mineral Belt, we do have some problems with people getting on that inadvertently. And if you have a sign there that says drive, then.
Well, I would say this. I've been a little surprised that we, and when I say we, I mean the county, it really manages the Mineral Belt Trail, the Mineral Belt Trail Committee, that they haven't done a better job of signage at intersections going onto that trail. In some places, they have those signs. It says motorized only. And in other places, they don't, which I'm not quite sure I understand. But in a lot of places in that trail, if you've been on it, you'll see it says, no motorized vehicles. And then at places there, right at Ice Palace Park, there's nothing. And I've seen, several times people driving on that. And so maybe it's something as a city that we should take on, working with Road and Bridge and say, we'd like some more intersection signage that they just fit right in the middle of the trail. They do that at that trail crossing, when you're going to the dump. And in other places on the Mineral Belt Trail, they do it, but just a few places they don't. I'm not sure I get that.
The place down by Dutch Henry, I personally almost turn on to the Mineral Belt every time I go into the dirt plot. It's just too easy.
So I'm going to suggest that really the fix to this is non-motorized signage on that trail at every single intersection.
And I'd have to fully agree with that. It's just, I don't think removing the word drive from their small signage that drivers probably can't read is really gonna make a difference one way or another. On if people drive on it. I think taking the holistic approach of putting do not drive and a stick that does not allow you to drive through it would be the more appropriate response to limiting drivers.
If I could,
No, I haven't. Yeah, go ahead, Alan, sorry.
Thank you. And I'll just respond for a moment. I mean, we're happy to, to accommodate any, any change of the, the sign that I just referred to. I mean, so I think that would deal with at least that part of the issue. But I would mention that I've had a couple of conversations with the committee that has for many years been involved in development and management of the Mineral Belt Trail. And they seem quite enthusiastic about this kind of overlay of an additional kind of historic significance to that trail. Again, repeating the fact that it has no intention of changing any kind of regulation that has been in place for decades now on the Mineral Belt Trail.
Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts or questions? Is this something that we are inclined to fund as a 50-50 proposition with the county?
Yes.
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 Jim?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And you say you're probably not gonna get the signage up until next spring, is that correct?
That is correct. Maybe it's inappropriate.
I made myself a note. I'm gonna go to Road Bridge and see if we can work with them on getting more non-motorized signs up, because it's bothered me, but I didn't see it as an action item really, and it should have been, so.
Could I make one further comment that might have been skipped over because I didn't actually show you the budget that I might have shared, but I have included in that a number of share the road bicycle safety signs, which I'm not that familiar with the Lake County road system, but I don't believe there are such safety signs already. It happens that here in Chaffee County, there are very few, and I am including bicycle safety signs in the proposal that I have brought forward to the Chaffee County Board. And in fact, they have approved of that. I've just made an order for a number of 15 or so bicycle safety signs. So that is something that is included in this budget that would come before you. So it's just I think it's an important, in my perspective as a trail promoter, that it's important to bring to the attention of drivers that there are bicycles sharing the road, and that's the kind of share the road bicycle sign that would be included in the proposal for Lake County as well as in Chaffee County.
Okay, thank you. We seem to have consensus. I would entertain a motion.
Grant.
And in that motion, would we agree that it could come out of this year's contingency?
Because I've already written it on.
You have, yeah, I knew that.
Grant moves that we fund the request in the dollar amount of $1,566 to go towards the stage and rail signage proposal to come from this year's contingency budget.
And then seconds.
Is there any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Whitson? Yes. Councilmember Finn?
Yeah.
Councilmember Liang?
Yes.
Councilmember Green?
Yes.
Councilmember Pickens is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Green?
Yes.
Mayor Levy?
Yes. Alan, thank you. I know this is been a lot of hard work for you. I appreciate what you're trying to accomplish here. When all's said and done, I think we're going to be proud to have this trail running from Leadville to Salida.
And I thank you, council members, for that vote. And I just in final mention that eventually the Stage and Royal Historic Route does connect, will connect. In fact, with the designation that we hope to get from the Board of County Commissioners as soon as possible, it will in effect, connect to the Fremont Pathway Trail, so that in one way or another, there is essentially a continuous designated route with some different characteristics, obviously, all the way from Salida to Copper Mountain. And I've been working on that for a long time. And thank you
Exciting.
again to the council.
Thanks, Alan.
All right.
Next up, we have the city administrator's report.
All right, great. Well, and first part is for Councilmember Forgensi, who's not here. I just wanted to give an update on the parkland. So as you can see, things are progressing. The concrete has been poured. It was covered to protect it from the snow. And as we get an update every Wednesday morning, so I will get a more complete update tomorrow morning. But the walls were to go in on Monday. Mayor, do you know if the walls went in on Monday?
They didn't show
Well, this is one of the issues with getting crews, but the crates have been moved down and we're going to be unpacked as needed for the building. And the visitor center, I think, was fine with closing the parking lot for this construction to continue. The end date still needs to be the end of November. So I'm sure tomorrow's call is going to be an all hands on deck kind of a call, because we do have a deadline for the grant money for the end of November. And as of last Wednesday, our contractor Hope was thinking she was on track for that, but I'll get more information tomorrow. Obviously, if the workers and contractors didn't show up for the walls, that's concerning. So I'm sure she's going to be getting on that as quickly as possible so we can stay on the deadline. Other news, we have some very good news. We have hired a human resources director. He's very excited about that. I don't know who's more excited, me or Donna, but I think that in working with Donna for the time that I have, I realized that she is doing so many tasks that are not in her job description, and human resources being one of the biggies. And so our new human resources director will start on November 21st. And I'm very excited about that. And I think that will help us with a lot of tasks, and mainly being able to make sure that we're doing and providing the services to our employees and not burning out our employees. And other good news, I know that the council has met Hannah Shear, but she is our new deputy city clerk. She agreed to step in right away. She has been the municipal court clerk. So I begged Judge Floyd's forgiveness before I talked to Hannah about it, but Hannah has been working with the city already as municipal court clerk, and came on, and that position is, you know, maybe more like 5 to 10 hours a week. We promised Hannah we would try and get her more hours, and she had been helping out lots of other departments, and, you know, really having her be able to step in and be full-time and be able to give her full-time employment with benefits. I'm going to stress this. It's really important for keeping people in our community. And, you know, it's a win-win situation for the city, because Hannah knows us. She knows, you know, she could step right in. Maida did give her training before she started, and it seemed to go great. And so you know, as you all may know, Hannah is also a resident of 809 Spruce. So it is just fabulous that this has been an opportunity for us to give employment to someone who might have had to leave the community should she not get employment, and also housing. So I think it's just fabulous. And we've thrown Hannah in right away. Her first day was Monday. And so, you know, she's got counsel today, and she's been doing fabulous. So welcome, Hannah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other updates. So cybersecurity, I wanted to talk about this, not just because I think October is cybersecurity month, but it's a big deal. If you've been reading in the newspaper and the press, Fremont County was hacked, as was the city of Wheat Ridge. It is a real threat. We have been doing lots of things to get ahead of this. You heard our auditor come in and request that we get cybersecurity insurance, and Donna is working on that. I attended a cybersecurity class offered by our insurance, and I was panic texting Dan, our IT guy, to find out what we were doing and not doing. You all have seen in our budget for the administration department, there's some requests to upgrade our internet in City Hall. And then that is one of the things that is imperative for us to be able to put some security measures in place. Right now, our infrastructure is just not capable of doing some of the security that we need. The hack that took down the city of Wheat Ridge took them down for a week. I do not want to have to close the doors of City Hall for a week while we try and untangle something. So we're having a cybersecurity assessment going on right now, which is looking at our vulnerabilities. Think some of the things that we're working with IT, Dan, now on are going to address some of those vulnerabilities, but everybody in the city, department heads and key people have gone through one round of interviews with the cybersecurity analyst. We're doing the second round right now. And then the goal is they come up with a plan that tells you what your vulnerabilities are, and then we work to plug those holes. And one of the things is we're having a staff meeting, city staff meeting November 3rd. And I want to talk to staff about some of the things that can happen, you know, the phishing is getting very sophisticated. So, you know, we all know, maybe don't click on the attachment for things, but you know, now hackers are sending emails with maybe potentially my name with a weird request or description, and you need to hover over my email, my name, to see that it actually is not truly from my email address. It is from a fake email address. So if you get a request for me for a gift card for $500, hopefully you know, but they're getting sophisticated. So one of the key things they say, you can have the best technology in the world. There's two parts of it. The technology aspect, which you're going to see those capital requests. The second part is staff to know what to look for. CIRSA, our insurance agency, also has a program where we're going to talk about this. They will send phishing to your city to see who falls for it. So, and, you know, I think this is really important. I don't think it, you know, and many companies have lots of cybersecurity. We think, oh, we're a little city, nobody's paying attention to us. The one thing I got out of the class that I thought was really interesting is that they're always looking for the weakest link. So don't be the weakest link. And so we need to address what vulnerabilities we have so that we're the move along, find another city to bring down and try and ransomware. Just Fremont County and Wheat Ridge said they didn't pay the ransom. So I, you know, take them at their word, but yeah, essentially their computer systems were shut down and they were asked for $5 million in ransom to unlock their computer system. So it is a real threat and one which we are working on. I wanted to give you all a heads up that we are going to be seeing a pretty busy council schedule until the end of the year. We had our agenda setting meeting today, which we always do before a council meeting in the evening, but we're looking towards the end of the year. You're going to see a lot of code updates from planning and zoning. So planning and zoning is working on, Chapin and Lori have been really helping move things through the system where the policy advisory team recommendations, the table of uses updates, some things that have been worked on. We're grateful now that we have the staff to push them forward. And guess what? They're going to hit your plate all at once. but that's a good thing. It's a good thing. It means we're getting things done. So you're going to see a little bit longer meetings because of some code updates. You've got budget, we've got budget meetings. So thank you all. And I want to thank staff. Meetings every Tuesday are hard on staff, they're hard on council. So I want to say thank you to everybody for stepping up on that. And then I know you don't want to hear this, but y'all still need to make a decision on family, the state family medical leave program before the end of the year. So we have tucked that in for the meeting on December 6th. And what we have been doing in the meantime is talking to employees and getting their feedback. And we will give you their feedback so that you can make a decision about what is best, knowing what some of the employees think. Because I think one of the things that came up at the last meeting was, well, if I was an employee, I'd want this, or if I was an employee, I wouldn't want that. Well, we're talking to employees to see what their preferences are. Last thing, because we're hitting all the major items, short-term rentals. So we internally had a meeting to discuss short-term rental, in part because we wanted to talk about the platform that we use. We use MuniRevs right now to track short-term rentals, and we get lots of sales calls about different companies that can offer different things and different services. Muni Revs has been good in some aspects of the things that it can do, but there are some limitations. We decided that it was probably not best to switch a platform right now, given that we're in the midst of trying to ramp up staff and we're all underwater. But one of the things we wanted to talk about is potentially having a work session where we talk about short-term rental. And there are some things that we want to have city council talk about whether or not a percentage of the home percentage works better, or if there should just be a cap. I know that was discussed in summer, but I think just a straight up cap would be easier for staff. And also just in general, tracking and management. There's some things we'd just like to potentially have a work session to talk through. So just teeing that up is something that maybe we'd like to see in early January to talk about that. And so busy until the end of the year is, I also went to a Colorado Association of Ski Towns meeting a few weeks ago. And the hot topic is always short-term rentals. And I actually feel really good that a lot of places are just starting to do the things that we have done. And so I breathe a sigh of relief. I was panicking during the cybersecurity, but I was not as panicked during the short-term rental discussions because we have put a lot of measures in place to manage short-term rentals, where a lot of cities are still struggling with that. So thank you, council, for doing that. And that is my update.
You've talked about a busy agenda. I'd like to ask about two additional items that we've talked about. One is an OHV moratorium.
Yes. Okay, so you are. Thank you. Yes. So where we are on that is the county had another work session discussion about some of the issues that are more pertinent to the county and their OHV. I have asked Christiana to put in her queue a moratorium on drafting moratorium on OHV new businesses, and it is in her queue. As you can imagine, she's been busy lately, and so it is on her to-do list. I wake up sometimes and think, oh my gosh, we need to get that going. But yes, I would like to see that going in early January.
That one feels a little less pressing now that we're going into winter.
Yeah.
Although OHVs can include snowmobiles and snow bikes and a lot of other different kinds of vehicles. Yeah, so I'd like to see that.
It's on our list, and
Yeah,
yes, thank you for reminding me that I
And-
had asked Christiana to, and again, her list is long, very long, and so we
Right.
hopefully have a little bit of breathing room. You know, she dropped everything and did another moratorium for us, so.
Right. I know the other one that's near and dear to your heart is the CUP for 809 Spruce.
Absolutely. So I think what we can do is have Chapin do an update on that in his next department heads report. But we are working on that, and Chapin and Christiana have gotten together and worked out some questions that they each had. And so there's some resolution about the approach for that. And so I've shared the lease that we have drafted for our current tenant. And so we are getting going on that. And I think what I'd like to do is just have Chapin do that in his department report next meeting.
December, it's coming for public hearing December.
Thank you. All right. Is that all?
Today,
This hour.
yes, yes.
Any questions for the city administrator and her report? Thank you very much. And next up, we have a discussion item. Is Title 16 and deals with subdivision regulations. We have discussed this in the past, but I think we're getting closer to a decision point on it. Chapin.
Sure. All right, well, here we go with a code update. And if you wouldn't mind, sharing page 26 of the packet. Steering, council, if you'd like to follow along with me, this material starts on page 22 of your packet with my memo and the consultants. All right, so I guess to start off, attached structures like duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, etc. That are a key building type for affordable housing, for community housing. for a variety of reasons, the economies of scale that come with attached housing. Also, the financing component. If you have a firewall, as Michael pointed out in his memo, if you have a 2-hour firewall construction between attached units, whether it's duplex, triplex, et cetera, that allows for traditional financing and lower interest rates, which is an important component of home buying for community housing. One of the considerations for this code amendment is that the property lines between units can only accurately be established after the walls have been constructed, the walls between the units have been constructed. Essentially, maybe even a few weeks before the unit is ready to be receive a certificate of occupancy, a surveyor comes out and surveys right between the studs and establishes that line, and that needs to be accurate. And then that gets recorded. Right now, in Leadville, we don't have an administrative process for that. So essentially, before a building is even constructed, it has to go through a public hearing process for this, which doesn't allow for that surveyor to come out in the middle of construction, establish that line, and throw that on a plat and go through the administrative process. So we need to have an administrative process to keep things moving, especially for attached units for affordable housing. Including your packet is a draft of the amendments that were originally prepared by Michael Yerman with Southern Colorado Economic Development District. And those have been reviewed by the Planning Commission in a work session in July, and then just last week at Planning and Zoning Commission, they recommended approval of these, or adoption by council of these proposed amendments pending legal review. Christiana and I have worked together just in the past week or two to make some additional amendments to these amendments. One of those being the inclusion of building footprint lots, a process for building footprint lots. So essentially this would apply for townhomes, condominiums being anything where the airspace is subdivided, stacked units on top of each other, and building footprint lots, which would be basically where you have just a traditional lot, and then the actual property line is just right there at the building wall, and then everything outside of that is owned in association as general common. Couple things to point out, that this kind of process, it would be administrative, but it would require zoning approval, a site-specific development plan to be approved prior to the building's construction. So in other words, if someone was to come in and want to build 50 units and 5 to 10 different structures, all of that would require a public hearing, and it would be required to come through you for that zoning approval. And then this planning process would actually just take place one building at a time during construction, mid-construction. So the council would still be seeing, as long as it's specified in code, this is something that warrants your review. The council will still be seeing the review of what the proposed development would look like. This is just one of those steps in the construction, one of the boxes that has to be checked, and you can have conditions of approval for that. As I mentioned, this would be single structure. So in your packet, you have chapter 16.22. That is all new. So this would be an additional section similar to in terms of how it fits into the code for major plat, minor plat, lot consolidation, et cetera. So this would be a whole new chapter for townhouses, condos, and building footprints. Also included in your packet is chapter 16.28 amendments. So this is just a very simple amendment to that existing chapter, modification to that existing chapter to spell out that this process will be administrative. Hopefully that's straightforward. I can certainly take any questions that you have. This is again just a presentation. We would have to come back to you for first and second reading.
In your table of processes,
Right.
Some things are self-explanatory, no hearing, no city council and P&Z hearings. Referral agencies as needed. Explain that if you would, please.
Sure. Well, if you are subdividing a unit, because this is a new process that has not really been done a lot in Leadville. We could have, because we require separate utilities, there, we could have up Blue, I'm sorry, that's Breckenridge. Parkville, and the sanitation district might want to get a referral to see, okay, how is this unique condominium building going to be put together? Where the utility is going to be, and that may affect the property lines. They may want to have easements, general common elements, et cetera, for things like utilities. So that's why we're putting this as needed. It's not required. That gives kind of staff the discretion. This would be an administrative process to say, there's something funky here. We need to send this to the referral agency to one utility companies. That's probably the best example I can think of.
That makes perfect sense. And if those things, it's administrative, but those things, it may have been in the site plan review, but maybe not.
Right.
Okay. I will say, a comment on all this is we're going to see more and more shared wall housing. And I had a conversation with one of the guys from, I can't remember the name, but he basically, we were talking about affordable housing. He said you can no longer build affordable housing in single family homes. It has to be shared wall. This is the only way to get it done. And I just thought that was like a year ago, and I thought it was a very interesting comment.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. And the great thing about townhomes is they can still function as single family homes. They can still have a front yard, a backyard, and everything within their own walls. You're not having to walk up steps, stairs, and all those things. And we need housing across the entire spectrum, the entire continuum. And this is probably one of the most attainable options. And it gives someone to have the single family house with the kids and the dogs and all those things in the front yard and backyard, still have that entire experience, which is not for everyone, but it's one of those housing types that.
Any thoughts or questions on this proposed change? Yes.
I know I'm very tired tonight, but with the process now, there's no process for townhome development, even though they're building.
Correct. So a great example is just as recently as last week, someone was calling and saying, I have an existing house that has 2 kitchens. I'd like to live in one side and rent out the other for a long-term rental. But I want to subdivide this. How do I go about doing it? And I have to tell them that will be approximately an 8-week process. And that's just for an existing structure. So right now that requires a public hearing at planning commission and at city council. So the short answer is we do not have a process for that.
This is streamlining everything. And my second question is, are you requiring a 2-hour firewall or recommending a 2-hour firewall?
So that is outside of the zoning requirements. So that would be captured within the building code by Lake County Building Department. 2018
code would require a shared wall, 2-hour firewall, right?
And just as of last week, I think we added a clarification. I have to look for a second to find exactly where it is. I think Christiana had a clarification regarding compliance with building code, which would require a 2-hour firewall.
Thank you.
Any other questions? When is this? Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say I had questions, but you answered them all. Presentation.
When is this coming before us?
November 15th. So your next meeting for first reading, Michael Yerman will be here because we've already heard the housing update at that meeting, and then the second reading, I think, one month after that, which is the minimum I think we have to have for code.
30 days.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I would say I've always liked this ever since I heard about it, partially because to your point, before they had to determine where the walls were going to be when they did their subdivision. Now they can build a 5-plex and then make those determinations administratively. It just makes so much sense.
And for what it's worth, I'll offer, I used this process when I worked in Breckenridge for 7 years, and I signed off dozens of plats that brought, that I would say hundreds of employee housing projects or units online. And I can't think of a single glitch, so this process works well.
Great, thank you very much. Next up, we have ordinance number 10, series of 2022, an ordinance establishing a temporary moratorium on approval of certificates of appropriateness applications for demolitions in the National Historic Landmark District. And this is the first reading. We had a fairly robust debate last time. This is a moratorium. It does, in here, it accounts for emergency issues that may come up. It's only applicable in the National Historic Overlay District.
Is there any concern in all the legal issues that talked about prior cases determining that 10-month total was a reasonable duration and ours is a 12-month?
I can address that if you'd like me to.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so it is 10 months from the effective date of the ordinance. And it's kind of 12 months, but it is it is 10 months from the effective date of the ordinance. And that's I did it that way on purpose, to give a little buffer. But the 10 months is a maximum that's been approved in case law in Colorado. It's not an absolute maximum, so there is some wiggle room depending on what it is. But I think the point for moratorium, for a moratorium, is that, you know, to make sure that things continue to progress so that the moratorium can end as quickly as possible. But I did want to build in some flexibility because I know this is a, you know, big change or potential big change.
Thank you. That makes a lot of
Thanks,
sense.
Christiana. I had heard from a fairly reliable source that it was 7 years. Is that correct?
Supreme Court.
There was a U.S. Supreme Court case that addressed Lake Tahoe in California. They allowed 32 months. I don't know about anything else, but
we're just messing with you.
okay, good.
Yeah, right. Please don't mess with Christian.
Oh.
She printed this out in record.
Thank goodness she has a good sense of humor.
Right. You should be sending her chocolates.
This is where we need to get a really, Christiana, do you need a hug right now? Mayor, Mayor, will you please give Christiana a bear hug?
Is that what this is here?
Give her actually a.
Oh,
bear hug.
a bear hug? You know what? We need to send one of these to Christiana.
So Christiana, you can see the mayor got these bears here. And it's because the mayor's unbearable. No, I'm kidding. So we will send you a hug for all of your hard work for us.
Amazing.
Okay.
So, if I may,
Yes, please.
I wasn't involved in the discussion on the meeting on the 18th. I was absent. So I'm not sure what prompted this, but is this, so anybody that intends to invest in their property and that investment includes the COA for whatever dilapidated shed or whatever, this means that they are not going to be able.
For 10 months, that's correct. The issue is, I don't want to get too deep into the argument, and we have
It was a deep argument.
we have disagreements about this, but that demolishing a building without permission in the National Historic District is a problem for us as a historic city and one that has a national designation. So right now, the moratorium just lets us take a deep breath, consider all the options, and go through the process of looking at this as an ordinance.
Specifically with a loophole of after 6 months, the applicants can then demolish regardless of what recommendations that anyone would have made. I'm familiar with it.
The loophole on the moratorium is that if there's an unsafe structure, we can proceed.
Yes. Okay,
While we go back to fisticuffs over the actual ordinance.
So the consensus is we don't want to proceed just as we always have. We want to, we want to impose a moratorium.
There was no consent, the original ordinance that was given to us last meeting provoked a lot of discussion, and we were not all on the same page over how to proceed with it. Because of that, it was suggested that if we put a moratorium on demolitions that did not involve unsafe structures, that it would address the concerns of some of the council members over inappropriate demolitions and give us time, hopefully not up to 10 months, to actually iron out, come to some compromises over the different viewpoints on the ordinance as it was presented to us last time.
Okay. If there's.
It just buys us some
If there's an unsafe structure though, it could be considered. Yeah.
could be considered under this moratorium.
That would change my mind.
Yeah, this is going to be a lively debate. I'm actually looking forward to it.
We do have a workshop already planned ahead of the time for this, so. I don't know when that date is. December.
Really?
Sounding so heavy.
It's gonna happen soon.
It better be snacks.
There will.
I have so
that
much
was gonna
leftover Halloween candy for y'all. You're gonna have Reese's Pieces, you're gonna have.
Is that a bear, Tim? What are you?
Yeah. Something.
Upstairs, there's some upstairs right now.
Okay, we have the action item in front of us. I would entertain motion on this ordinance number 10, series of 2022.
Boomerang moves to adopt ordinance number 10, series of 2022, an ordinance establishing a temporary moratorium on approval of certificate of appropriateness applicants for demolitions in the National Historic Landmark District on first reading. I further move to schedule the second reading of this ordinance for City Council's regular meeting on the December 6th, 2022.
Lorenzen, second.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? And I'd like to thank Councilmember Lorenzen for helping us through this with a good suggestion. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Lorenzen? Yeah. Councilmember Hall?
Yes.
Councilmember Leon?
Yes.
Councilmember Gray?
Yes.
Councilmember Mayor Green?
Yes.
Mayor Roddy?
Yes. Thank you all. At this time, we have the public meetings planner. I did look at this online. We might need to discuss the website. The website has improved in some ways, and in other ways, the navigation of it seems more problematic to me, but that's just an observation based on trying to get through it yesterday. So just something we'll deal with internally. In terms of the planning, on this Thursday, we have a city staff meeting at 9 o'clock. Not on this planner. That's an all staff meeting to discuss, a number of things as Lori had said, not the least of which is potential offerings for our health plan. Then the next week on the 10th, we have a fire management board. I don't know if that should be on the city planner or not. And I just wanted to mention that evening on the 10th, this is not for the city planner, Rocky Mountain PBS is going to have, they were here filming for days this summer, and the first of their series is going to be at 7:30 that evening of the 10th.
What?
Rocky Mountain PBS is They were here during the Irish Memorial and they were, I don't know how many people they interviewed, but it was quite a few.
I don't know if you saw, there was an article in the Colorado Sun.
Oh, it did not. Yeah.
It was yesterday.
Okay, thank you.
So that's gonna be broadcast. That's all?
Yes, it's 7:30.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
on the ninth, you have, our budget workshop and it says a P and Z meeting.
I know.
At the same time.
They're at the same time.
How are
The-
we doing?
It's the normal P and Z meeting. I'm just gonna have to miss the P and Z meeting.
And where are we all meeting then?
Those are all virtual.
Oh,
Yeah, until December, they come back and get hybrid in December.
Okay.
Everything's on December.
I noticed that.
But that's a good observation. And that's a conflict for me only, really. So. I was gonna say shop small Saturdays on November 26th. Main Street does such a great job with that. They turn it into quite an event downtown.
So I noticed the Laura meetings at 6 o'clock now, is that?
That's correct, on
We're
Thursdays.
gonna start doing 6 again.
and it's hybrid, so if you wanna come here, I'll be here, you'll be here.
I'll be here.
I know those gonna be regularly done on Thursdays.
I think we did decide that the Tuesday at 4 o'clock just didn't work well.
So we're doing the first Thursdays at 6 o'clock. Okay.
I will not be able to be at this one. I will be at the next one.
Okay, thank you. Any other additions, subtractions to the planner? Oh, I have a question about HPC. Are they meeting really on election eve,
Election day,
election day? Yes, I'm sorry,
yes,
that thing.
yes,
So they are gonna meet. Okay, interesting. All right.
too much to do.
And you want to use
We're using
that
work
meeting and the next meeting to prepare for their work session with you in December.
Excellent. Last thing I have is December, and Lori sent this out about CML has an effective governance class coming up on December the 1st. If anybody would like to sign up for it, we'll sign you up. We can pay for it and sign you up. Just let us know if you want to attend that class, because there is a charge for it.
Yeah, I found that the Colorado Municipal League does have some really good training, so if anybody is interested in me continuing to forward those opportunities, I will.
Yeah, they do things very well. Any other changes to the plan? Okay, thank you. Mayor's report real quick. We had Sursa here doing their annual inspection. I took the guy around to the Tabor Opera House, Tabor Home and House of the Eye. And then Donna was showing him around. Lori, I don't know if you were.
And Donna took him to the fire department. and
Yeah,
Street department.
so it just,
Yeah.
they do a yearly inspection and then they send us a report about things that they might like for us to improve. It's pretty perfunctory. What, you just smile like,
Words management.
yeah, okay. The next thing I'll say is I every year I get invited to the Mining Hall of Fame induction banquet and I've never gone. Partially, huh? It is awesome. I went this last weekend but this time I was specifically invited by Mike Kendrick, who's the CEO of Climax. And I really wanted to talk to him about the Climax parcel because and without getting into a lot of detail, it keeps hitting these headwinds and it's frustrating for me. Well, to my delight, he brought it up. And then what he and I talked about was he was completely in agreement with what we had agreed to 6 months ago. And he said, that's what we should be doing. And I said, yes, but that's not what your corporate office is saying needs to happen. And he really committed to getting that fixed.
They
So,
haven't done any remediation.
yeah, right. But as you know, they want to clear cut it and mill the soil. And he even said, no. So I was glad I was there. It is a really awesome event. and very high level worldwide, anyway. But getting a chance to talk with Mike, who's really a super person, was also a real thrill for me.
Give you a path forward.
Well, I called Aaron Hillshurst, and they have a new manager at the mine. His name is Jamie, and I met him Saturday night also. We're gonna go meet out there. So, and Michael said, if you're not getting the answers that we've discussed, please call me. And I said, I've been reluctant to do that, but I will. So I'm very hopeful, but this year's slow. I mean, this would be a next year RFP, an application, late next year. And so we've lost another year, and I feel badly about that, but we've done everything we knew how. And now there's a glimmer of hope here for getting this done. That's it for the mayor's report. Any council reports?
Yep, have one from the Regional Housing Authority.
Oh, good.
We are all seated and have now internally placed everyone's positions. I am the president with, Sarah Mudge being vice president, secretary, I believe, is Cisco, and Clara is the treasurer.
Excellent.
So those committee seats are all seated. There's also a potential, request for our budget to potentially include some affordable housing set asides as well for whatever comes up. I think there's some discussion about employee time, other such things that maybe we should look into. I know we're already giving all of our 2A funds, but it might be worthwhile to potentially look at, especially if we do get accepted for the DOLA grant, continuous funding, just to make sure it sets up.
Yeah, that's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's we could, build all the committees in the world. If we don't have consistent funding for them, they'll languish. Yeah. Did you guys discuss it all? I was on for the first half hour, and it was a technological nightmare. So I'm not sure what you guys discussed about trying to, have a better feed, a stronger feed.
We didn't discuss about that. I think there was focus primarily on just establishing the group in itself, and it's
all right.
But there is some more funding that we are pursuing. We're pursuing the go ahead for Jackie to pursue a down payment assistance grant.
Okay.
To help people with down payments and getting them situated home buyer ready, essentially. So
Does that dovetail with what Chafee Housing Trust is doing in terms of education, or is that something completely separate?
completely separate, and it's also separate from the feed research things and such.
Gotcha. I'm very pleased that you guys are up and running. Excited.
I just add on that, we had a pre-application meeting with DOLA as well.
Oh, okay.
And they just had some additional questions for us. Wanted to make sure that we were highlighting certain action items that we were taking on. If we were in fact invited to apply.
So this is for the $1 million grant for the parcels that have been selected, right?
It is.
Excellent, thank you.
And from every indication I got from DOLA, they were very impressed with everything we have done over the past year, and I think we're making it very difficult for them to say no.
That is
Good job.
fantastic news.
So, how many qualifying strategies did you guys end up with?
All but one.
All but one?
That is what was presented.
I mean, the fact that they're using you guys as an example is, I think,
Fantastic work.
Well, and the city's been involved in that, and the county, it's been a really nice effort. I think God, I hope we get something done. Yes, geez. Build a damn house.
So the funding is specifically for infrastructure set down for making housing affordable. Just,
Well, we are building 12 houses next year. I consider that a huge victory for the city and county. You know, and it's a start.
Well, I remember when we went through all these discussions of short-term rental regulation, like we felt like we were very much behind the 8 ball, and in fact. I know we're kind of behind the 8 ball with housing, but I think we're also on top of it as best as we can.
I would agree with that. We're playing from behind like we always do. But the latest number I heard in one of these meetings was, I guess the Summit County study said Lake County was 909 units behind.
Yeah.
I'm going. Oh, yeah, let's build that tomorrow.
That was the Summit County thing that they did. I don't remember the year, but I think it was Christie or someone from back west for that to be included. I believe.
All right.
And it was.
Well, thank you very much. Thank both of you for being involved in that. Any other council reports?
I have another update.
Yes, please.
Kind of a little bit of a lighter note, but the 29th, October 29th, Saturday. We sent a couple cross-country teams down to Colorado Springs. Boys and girls both had a team this year, which was great. Jace Peters was second in the state in the boys race. And our girls ferociously defended their state championship.
All right.
Not have black champions for the first time, and I don't even know how. So very proud of the girls.
That's fantastic.
So on Tuesday night, we are going to-
What's that?
I said on Tuesday night, we're going to celebrate next Tuesday.
We are.
Yes, you'll be coming to the
Yes,
high school cafeteria. celebration. So,
As long as you don't have
I'm bringing
election results up on the big board.
I need something to distract me.
Yeah, okay. That great report. Thank you. Any other council reports? Any other council reports? Okay. In which case, it is 8:15, so it's just really, really early. The city council is adjourned.
Who called 8:15?
Not bad.
I had